Today I'm sitting down with Will Torres at Torres Property. Torres Property is based over in Coorparoo. As an agent, he's got 13 years of experience. He was rated number one agent for Carindale. He's number one agent for Mansfield as well. So he really specialises in the Carindale Mansfield area. As a business, they've sold over 109 properties, which is a lot for an office.
Absolutely.
You guys are doing really well.
Yeah, thank you.
But what's crazy is 44 of those are just in Carindale. For such a small suburb, you really captured that area. And today I just pretty much want to learn about Carindale and what sort of buyers you see.
Mate. Ask any questions you have for yourself and obviously your clients. More than happy to help.
Cool. I guess I'm just going to go through a couple of properties. So what was the last property you sold in Carindale? And pretty much I just want to know what was the price point, the location, and what was the buyer? So
okay.
We'll start off with...
So the latest sale that I've got at the moment is one in 19 Woodland Street.
Yeah.
That was on the market last year with another agency. Actually, it was a conjunction or a multi-listing with another agency. So I had it first up, and I couldn't. I did have interest, but couldn't sell it. And then they decided to flip and go with the second agent, who was also in a multi-listing with me on this property. They did end up getting an offer of $1.1 million. The seller actually told, unfortunately, the other agent to go jump because they paid 1.3 for it back at the end of 2016. Now, if you recall, last year's market was a good market, not a great market, but a good market. This year's market, it's been sort of a bit of a economy crisis, if you want to call it, worldwide, but also a health crisis. So, in the middle of a pandemic, just about 2.5 weeks ago, I listed that property about 6 weeks ago, took it to market, have it under contract at the moment. It's not officially sold as yet, but it's definitely a story I like to tell because it's interesting to see where the market is and how predictable it is at the moment. I actually got that property under contract 2.5 weeks ago for $1.5 million. So that's about 400,000 more than we were last year's market, and that was at 19 Woodland Street in Carindale.
See, and that's one of the big things. The media saying that it's such a bad time for real estate. But I went to open homes on the weekend, and I just seen a ton of I've seen 4 to 5 groups through these properties. Are you seeing the same?
Mate, absolutely. I think we were averaging half a dozen, give or take. I mean, there was other properties that we were probably getting somewhere between 14 groups, and then others that we were probably getting maybe 2 and 3 groups. I think we had a total of maybe 26 open homes across the board on the weekend, which was great. So there's definitely confidence is still there. Demand is strong, not high. And I'm encouraging a lot of sellers that definitely it's a good time to sell now. If there is a downturn in the market, I know the CBA came out last week saying that there might be a 33% drop. And this is nationwide, by the way. I think that's something that we need to understand, that it's not a specific suburb or area or city that they're talking about. This is nationwide. I've always found that we've been the little brother to Sydney and Melbourne in regards to how we follow their their markets. When they have sort of a growth or quite a sort of, it's sort of like their market takes off like a rocket ship. We tend to have that steady growth. And when the market does sort of drop in their market, we tend to have that sort of plateau. If there is any sort of downturn, and I'm not an economist, so this is just off the record. I know you're recording this, but this is just off the record. My view would be probably Brisbane having anywhere between 5 to 10% downturn in the market for certain properties, certain areas, certain suburbs. I mean, there is a combination of things. You can't just say there's going to be a 33% drop or say a 5 or 10% drop and predict that, because it's going to be other areas will do better than the area next or the next suburb across across the city. So
and that's spot on. With Carindale, I was just looking at the numbers. So we had a medium house price at 682 back in 2013, and then 2015 is 800, and then the next year is 825, 870 the following year, and then 2018 is 870, and then 880, and now it's at 885. So there's a constant rise in Carindale, and Do you know what? Is it mainly like families that are coming into Carindale?
Yeah, Nathan, good question. I think there's been a massive migration of buyers that have been coming out of the inner city suburbs, like your Camp Hills. On the south side of Brisbane, we've got Camp Hill, Coorparoo, Norman Park, Cannon Hill, Carina, those sort of areas. And we're seeing a migration of buyers that are starting to now move into those family areas. They look value for money. I mean, when I started selling, as Nathan mentioned on this video, I started selling 13 years ago as a sales agent. And I know when I started to get into Carindale, everyone was thinking, why would you sell out there? It seems so far away. But in reality, it was only 10 kilometres. And I mean, as the population grows, and I think as the migration comes through from those inner city suburbs, you're seeing people starting to compromise, might go out that extra 1 or 2 Ks, but they get value for money. They get the bigger house, the 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom property on a 700-800 square metre block for, $1.2 million.
5 bedrooms.
And then you've got something like, if you go to Camp Hill, you might get your 5 bedrooms, but then you're paying $1.3, $1.4 million on a 16 perch block, or if you want to call it new sort of terms, or 405, a 10 by 40 square metre block. So, very narrow, small, and people want that more of that lifestyle and space, especially with families tend to stay in the household for longer periods of time now in regards to their kids, not sort of moving out of home as quickly as years ago.
And that totally makes sense what you're saying. And you've been there for 13 years to actually watch the market and watch the buyers just slowly just realize, hey, for 1.1, I could save sort of 300, 400,000, and I'm only going to be 2 minutes away, and I'm going to have this big house on a big block of land. And there's really, for them, they're only losing out on maybe 2-minute commute time to the city.
That's it.
It's not much at all.
No, that's not much at all.
And you still got, Old Cleveland Road and Stanley Road to get straight into the city. There's not much congestion. I guess what was the buyer for that property?
It was Chinese. Majority, most of the people that are coming in from a cultural perspective, it has been Chinese coming into Carindale. One of the big things is obviously school catchment lifestyle for that sort of area. They want the sort of brick veneer, solid homes. I think the brick and mortar is really sort of does appeal to that sort of culture. And I find that they tend to sort of be the ones with the deeper pockets and pay those sort of, and that's probably why we've seen those medium sale prices go from 2013 at 682 now start going into that sort of 870, 880 sort of mark. So I do find that a lot of my clientele was probably be about 40%, 50% Chinese, especially in this pandemic situations. Or I guess COVID situation that we're sort of going through over the last few weeks now. So that's the sort of culture of buyer that has been in the Carindale market.
And I guess, just to touch on what you just said, it kind of makes it, if you're happy to take a lower rental yield, it's a pretty safe area for investment purposes.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You're always going to have a buyer there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's definitely more growth to come in the years to come, medium to long term. I wouldn't say short term, but medium to long term within Carindale, because obviously everything's very unpredictable at the moment with people coming out saying where the market will or will go, I guess is what they're thinking as a prediction. But I think there's still a lot of growth in Carindale to be had based on the fact that there is just a lot to offer to go out that extra 5 more minutes or extra 5 minutes, I should say, into an area that offers a lot.
Okay, cool. I guess if anyone, another thing I wanted to ask was, do you have another property that you could? What was the? That was the Chinese buyer. Do you have another property you could mention that you've recently sold?
Well, there's been a few. What's another one? We had one at number 2 Denina Street in Mansfield. Best house. Not the best street, good street, but not the best street. Let's put it that way. It was definitely the only renovated house. Just think of a white house, and everything else around it is your classic 1960s, 1970s
post-war homes.
Brick. It was a mixture of post-war and brick and mortar, or brick veneer sort of homes, not renovated with that sort of not barbed wire, but more like that fence, that old sort of iron steel fence. I think you guys get the picture if you're obviously listening into this. So, and that one there we sold for $1 million. The average going rate there was probably looking at 2013 prices in Carindale of 682, it's probably the going rate or medium sale price in Mansfield is around that sort of 700,000, give or take. And we got that one away. We had about 350 people through that property in about 2.5 weeks. It was a lot of interest in that property. I mean, credit to the sellers. They did an amazing job with the presentation. So, credit to them. It made our job definitely easier. But in saying that, it wasn't easy getting that $1 million number because it was definitely out of the ballpark to get that sort of number. Because truth be told, I think if we look at the statistics and where it probably would sit, it would be more somewhere around that sort of mid 900s, give or take. So to get that extra sort of around that, get that $1 million number was actually quite satisfying.
I guess that's why, a large percentage of these sellers are working with you. You are getting top results. And to top it off, like whenever I've gone through an open home, you've given me a call back on a Sunday.
Yes.
You do callbacks on Sundays. A lot of agents don't do that. So
that's our secret, mate. Don't be telling that to everyone. That's our secret. So no, it's all good.
That's all right. I just wanted to say
it's just something that I do a little different. I think you need to strike while the iron is hot. In this market, especially right now, I'm finding there's a lot of people having buyer's remorse. I think that was a word that wasn't used that often, and it hasn't been thought about often. But now it's something that is definitely becoming more real. Just based on the fact that we're seeing that there's just a lot of uncertainty. So people start talking themselves out of it. So for me, it's about making sure that you can strike while the iron is hot, and hence why I do my callbacks on a Sunday. And I think it's getting that report back to the sellers as well, at least even if it's not written feedback, at least it's verbal feedback in regards to knowing that you're obviously out there working for them to get the best you can.
Right. Kudos, man. It shows that you're actually a really good agent.
I try. I try.
I think just to sum it up, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, because obviously you're the guy to talk to. Say someone wants to move to Carindale and they need to get their idea on price point and all of that, because there's as there's suburbs within suburbs, there's price points all over the place. How could they get in contact with you?
They can send. Look, I welcome anyone getting in contact with me. They can send me an email. They can shoot me give me a call. I mean, my door's always open. So, Nathan, there's. It's not like, okay, this guy's very busy. He runs an agency. He's got so many staff that work with him. He just doesn't have any time. It's about making the time that's important. So, and when you can make the time, I think you can really sort of help out people, because at the end of the day, we are in the people business. We're not in the real estate business. I think people need to understand that so many people think, okay, if I go into real estate, I'm dealing with properties. No, you're dealing with people and their emotion. And that's why it's about giving time to everyone as best as you can.
Awesome. I appreciate that, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Yep, that's cool.
Again, thank you today. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure, mate. Oh, we're shaking. There we go. Hopefully we don't get a fine, but it should be all good, mate. I'm COVID free. My pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for this, for the opportunity to be interviewed, and mate, always happy to do it again for you.